SAB has been part of the fabric of South African society for the last 125 years. And today is a big day. A big day for AB InBev's African footprint, as we stand by for the SAB Zenzele JSE scheme to list on the BBBE segment of the JSE. My name is Gugulethu Mfupi, and I'm coming to you live from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, where we are quite excited and awaiting the iconic Kudu horn to be blown to mark the market open, this time on this historic date of the 28th of May. Today's celebration is twofold, celebrating the success of the SAB Zenzele share scheme, which has culminated in the biggest BBBE FMCG payout in South African history, and a celebration of the potential and possibility of the new share scheme, Zenzele Gabili, as the opportunity now extends to eligible South Africans to become valued shareholders. It's time now to take stock of where SAB has been over the last decade, and it's both my pleasure and privilege to share this journey with you. Let's take a look at where it all began. Created with the intention of generating sustainable ownership and economic wealth opportunities, the SAB Zenzele BBBE deal transferred ownership of SAB shares to more than 40,000 shareholders. Take a look at how the scheme truly empowered the lives of one of the retailer shareholders.
Uma investor uyakhula nengqondo yakho iyakhula, then uba power yokuthi nginento engiyibambile esandleni. It is Zenzele was not there. I was having nothing at all. So I'm so proud of myself being an investor.
Since its inception in 2010, SAB Zenzele has generated 9.71 billion rand in net value and dispersed well over 3.34 billion in dividend payouts to shareholders, making the total value of SAB Zenzele almost 13.05 billion, helping shareholders across the country realize their dreams.
You all want to build a future for yourselves and your families, and at SAB, we understand that it takes hard work and good partnerships.
Florence Khumalo is just one of the SAB retailer shareholders and partners who's been able to make her dreams come true with the contribution of SAB Zenzele.
Ingisiza kakhulu imali yezenzele ngoba umntwana wami engasafuni ukuya esikolweni ethi mama awunayo imali, so imali yokuqala engenile yiyo engisize kakhulu. Angifuni ukucamba mali, iye yangisiza ngafundisa umntwana wami wafunda, ngatshintsha nemoto zami. So iphupho lami ngiyalibona as umuntu othengisa utshwala ukuthi izenzele ingisize kakhulu. Ndiyayivuyela into endenzele yona inhle.
In April 2020, when the SAB Zenzele share scheme was scheduled to originally wind down, SAB Zenzele paid out a special dividend of 77.4% to assist shareholders with the financial distress and loss of income experienced during the global pandemic.
Ngoba ibhothiso beyivaliwe ngama-closing, but mina ngemali yasezenzele incedile bengaboni ukuthi kuvaliwe ngemali yezenzele.
We built our houses, we bought the cars, we took our children to the school. Zenzele is a good scheme.
This is a story of hope and empowerment. A story involving over 40,000 South African families who have benefited from SAB Zenzele, a broad-based share scheme that has truly created tangible value. It is so inspiring to see what has been achieved with SAB Zenzele and the generational wealth and economic growth that it has contributed to our country. As we close this historic chapter, it's time for SAB to extend the opportunity to other fellow South Africans in continuing this legacy of wealth creation and prosperity.
As we reflect on SAB Zenzele over the last decade, our proudest achievement remains how we have managed to truly empower the partners, staff, retailers and beneficiaries of the South African Breweries Foundation.
Following the success of SAB Zenzele, we are brewing a brand new empowerment share scheme to be listed on the BBBEE segment of the JSE.
It's a new dawn and a new decade.
Introducing a new scheme for new dreams.
And ownership for all.
At a special general meeting held for members of its current BBBEE scheme, SAB Zenzele, a quorum was secured with 8,339 retailer shareholders and 95% of the shareholders who voting in favor of the new scheme, satisfying the requirement for listing.
And now it's time to extend that opportunity to you, fellow South Africans.
Said to be SAB's biggest success yet, owning 5.4 billion rand in global AB InBev shares for all shareholders. As the South African public, you will be able to buy shares in SAB Zenzele Gabili, provided that you meet the qualifying shareholder criteria. Becoming an SAB Zenzele Gabili shareholder is simple. You can trade as an individual, and if you don't have a broker, go to www.sabzenzelegabili.co.za and sign the custody and settlement agreement to open an easy account. Shares will be available to purchase through existing trading platforms and stockbrokers, and transactions will be able to be facilitated through the SAB Zenzele Gabili nominee call center for the public. AB InBev advocates ownership, and one of our 10 principles when it comes to culture is that we are a company of owners. as we afford the opportunity of ownership to qualifying South African shareholders with SAB Zenzele Gabili. We take great pleasure in welcoming more owners to the AB InBev family, a global family of local companies with approximately 180,000 colleagues in nearly 50 countries, with over 500 iconic brands sold in more than 100 countries around the world. We're stronger together, and we look forward to walking the journey with you, South Africa, as we carry SAB Zenzele's legacy of transformation forward and continue this powerful empowerment story into the next decade with the launch of SAB Zenzele Gabili, with 5.4 billion rand in AB InBev shares. Hip hip Gabili.
So bonana khona, re tla bonana teng.
SAB Zenzele Gabili.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sanbonani Dumelang, Molweni, Goeiemiddag. We are just delighted to have you all present with us here this afternoon. Whilst we're aware that we are observing COVID-19 protocols, we do want the excitement to exude, despite the fact that we're only seeing half of your faces with us here in the audience. I'd like to observe all protocol by saying a good afternoon to the Honourable Deputy Minister, who's in our presence, members of the business community, distinguished guests, organizers of members of international organizations, and of course members of the media who are joining us through this live stream for an auspicious occasion that we gathered here for. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to this celebration of the official listing of SAB Zenzele Gabili. I think one thing we've certainly noticed in the video is that we've come a long way in terms of this journey and the wealth that we want to create and continue to share with future generations in South Africa regarding the qualifying population. So as we continue to indulge and engage in conversation and reflect on the growth that SAB Zenzele has gained, we certainly share a strong sense of excitement as to how Zenzele Gabili will continue to contribute to the change in the socio-economic dynamics in South Africa and, of course, economic growth. Once more, I'd like to say a very good afternoon to you all. And of course, to those of you who are joining us through our live streaming broadcast, we want to thank you for joining us virtually. Whilst you're not with us for the excitement, we are well aware that there's been quite a bit of excitement on the other side of our screen. So we ask that you continue to engage with us, share the messaging out there with the South African public on social media platforms, and continue to engage with us. Well, I do see that we're quite reserved. It might be a bit chilly. We might have our masks on, but I'm going to encourage you to share some of this optimism. Reason being is that in the video, we have reflected on the growth and how lives have been changed through SAB Zenzele. And that is certainly something that speaks to how Zenzele Gabili has grown in excitement, grown in anticipation from the South African public who want to participate in this investment scheme. Now, the beauty of the world that we live in is that it's all digital, right? And like many of you, I've got my cell phone in hand. And when the listing took place this morning, as you would have seen me outside the JSE studios today, the listing price, as we know, was 40 Rand a share. I'd like to update you all that today, just after lunchtime, the sense of optimism and excitement around the share and investment scheme has really seen a significant amount of appetite. 110 Rand a share is where we're currently trading. Say that again. Hip hip Gabili. Certainly, I think that is a sentiment that we'll share for the remainder of today. Good time, maybe you should have got in a little bit earlier, but we'll continue to see how the market dynamics respond. But I think this really does set the tone for the theme and the celebration and the sentiment that we want to share over the next hour throughout our program. I do want to update you that we will be hearing from various stakeholders who will be sharing not only the journey, the growth, but also the hopes and ambitions that we have for SAB Zenzele Gabili, and reflecting as to how various stakeholders have come forward in support of this great initiative, which has really been a key indicator of how we can advance broad-based black economic empowerment in South Africa. I won't keep you too long, but I will say that Hip Hip Kabili will be the line that we'll continue to celebrate for today. So I am allowing our various speakers the liberty to express that during the themes and conversations that they share with us today. However, to help us set the tone for today and provide us with some perspective from SAB specifically, we'll be joined by our first speaker, someone who is in the fortunate position of balancing both her passions of job creation and uplifting the youth. She has a target that she's placed with the organization and through the organization's efforts to create at least 10,000 jobs by the year 2022. I think we're all well aware of the economic climate that we're currently in and how this remains a key priority for South Africa's economy as well as SAB in general. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the SAB Vice President for Corporate Affairs, Zoleka Lisa, who will be joining us to give us the opening address of today's presentation. Please warmly welcome her both virtually and in person with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Gugu. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the SAB executive team, I would like to welcome everyone who has joined us here in person, as well as everyone who is watching the event online. Today is a very, very special occasion. We are celebrating the official listing of SAB Zenzele Kabili on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. A few weeks ago, as Gugu said, we held our AGM, and we're delighted that 95% of our Zenzele shareholders voted in favor of our new BEE scheme, which we've named SAB Zenzele Kabili. And Kabili is such an apt description for the new scheme. As the saying goes, all good things come in twos. With a very long history in South Africa, SAB has been driving transformation for many, many years. And that's why in 2010, we took the bold move of creating what would now become the largest empowerment scheme in the consumer goods sector. The winding down of Zenzele last year delivered just under 10 billion rand for over 40,000 beneficiaries and their families. It's really so inspiring to see the impact that Zenzele has had on the lives of so many ordinary South Africans, and to also acknowledge the socioeconomic contribution that the scheme has made to the country. With Zenzele Kabili, SAB has a dream, and that dream is to grow as a company and a country. And by growing, we want to create and share in superior value with our colleagues, our customers, our consumers, and definitely our communities. The new scheme will be built on the strengths and learnings of SAB Zenzele. The beneficiaries will still include our employees, our retailers, and the SAB Foundation, which I must say is doing the most amazing work with entrepreneurs in South Africa. Zenzele Kabili will hold 5.4 billion rands worth of shares in our parent company, AB InBev. And as many of you know, last year was a very difficult year for the country and for our industry. We had to navigate 3 alcohol bans, which had a very difficult impact on our value chain and the greater economy. So today, with the listing of SAB Zenzele, we're using the power of the beer value chain to be a catalyst of economic growth and recovery at a time when our country needs it most. And as someone who's been a previous beneficiary, I personally believe in the power of what this scheme has to offer and the hope that it can bring in the efforts of fast-tracking economic recovery during these challenging times. As you all know, SAB is a proudly and loudly South African company. Despite the many challenges currently facing our country and our economy, we are firmly committed to playing a pivotal role in the shaping and building of a South Africa we can all be proud of. The launch of SAB Zenzele Kabili is just one example of how we are transforming our nation and uplifting our economy. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for making time to join us this afternoon. And please do enjoy the rest of the program. And Gugu, hip hip Kabili.
Thank you so much, Zoleka, for sharing those sentiments and really providing some perspective for us, as well as speaking from a beneficiary's perspective as we've now opened up that opportunity. Hip hip There we go. I like the energy already. Well, we'll look to keep this momentum going as we do hear now from a representative and a well-distinguished businessman who might be familiar to many of you here in the audience, who is the chairperson of the board of SAB SA, the parent company of South African breweries, but now will serve in the role of this new venture that we lead forward, being SAB Foundation and SAB Zenzele JSE, serving as the chairman of both of these particular organizations. Please warmly welcome Moss Nkwashe.
Good afternoon, everybody. Speaking is not one of my strongest points, but I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Gugu for a lovely introduction and for being at the JSE. Zolega, thank you so much for being part of this process. I will be amiss in terms of protocol if I don't recognize my elder brother here, Panel Maduna. Dr. Maduna was the last chairman of Zenzele, a very distinguished business person in our country, retired politician, and civil servant. Good afternoon, everybody. If you look at the impact of what Zenzele has done and the ongoing impact what it's going to do, it's just amazing that today we're standing here 10 years later, reintroducing an extension and including every South African into the process. In the beginning, BEE was a very difficult concept. Big organizations like SAB, they didn't know how to deal with it, but they designed schemes which were creative, were inclusive, and were broad-based enough. And that's really what the key is. Inclusiveness, broad-based, and more importantly, looking after their own employees. Because without those employees who every day wake up at 5 in the morning, go up, take a taxi, go to the brewery and brew, we would not have an organization that we have. It's an organization of 100 years old, but I think that it's an organization that is going to live for another 100 years and beyond. We, as SAB Foundation, myself as the former chairman of SAB here, and now been asked to chair Kabili, it's a very proud moment for us. Just give you a perspective about SAB Foundation, what we do. The key things that we do is to support entrepreneurs, not in the big cities per se, in the rural areas where nobody wants to go. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, women entrepreneurs that we support. I was talking to the manager of SAB Foundation the other day. She was in rural KZN, where we're looking at 1,000 farmers who've been doing work without support, and we're bringing all of those people into this organization. The SAB Foundation is really there to support young women and rural people in building their organization. As we stand today, we've created more than 30,000 jobs in that process. The entrepreneurs that we've supported, they've seen their turnover increase by 137% over the year. That's what empowerment is all about, making people improve their lives and improve their businesses. We have a program where we do not only support young people, we've included a big component in our beneficiary scheme, disabled people. We support people who run businesses who are disabled across the country. And the stories that we can tell you, if you just go on our website, you'll find amazing stories of South Africans doing amazing things. But I think we're excited to be part of Gabili because we are one of the anchors of the Gabili system. The foundation reinvested to make sure that this Gabili scheme extends beyond the current beneficiaries that we have, which are employees, the retailers, but encompasses all other South Africans. So we will remain an anchor shareholder to make sure, alongside AB InBev, that the scheme is a success. With those few words, Gugu, Gabili is the name, right? Zenzele Gabili is the game. And we're going to change the game in this country.
Thank you very much to Ntate Khwasheng for giving us that welcome. And I think I'll assist you with it. It's hip, hip. Hip, hip. There we go. Well, thank you so much for sharing those sentiments with us and, of course, the change that we want to implement in society. Looking at social media, the feedback continues to remain quite positive that the former Zenzele shareholders are very keen on participating in this opportunity and holding on to their current shares. So a lot of appetite, but we'll see how the markets continue to influence and change over the upcoming months and weeks. But to help us also get further clarity in terms of how this ambition does tie into what the broader business community does desire and does seek and look to participate in, which is transformation, we will hear now from a representative of the Black Business Council, an umbrella body for black businesses in South Africa. To help us get further clarity and their response to this phenomenal opportunity for many more South Africans to participate in equity in the country, we joined, and please warmly welcome, the CEO of the BBC, Khanki Matabane.
Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? You know, I studied undergraduate education, so we can't differentiate between afternoon and evening. Afternoon, everyone, and all protocol observed. We are here to actually congratulate SAB on this groundbreaking and historic moment of Zenzele Gabili listing. And we are saying it's groundbreaking because our fight is to ensure that the majority of people who happen to be black play a meaningful role in the economy. And then I think this is one of those schemes that are making that reality, to make sure that people who are having ownership, they are getting something in return. You will be aware that there are so many other schemes that happened, but this one is different because it has actually put money in people's there's actually put money in people's purses and in people's bank accounts. You are aware, I think, that there are schemes that we don't support, and those are the schemes where you cannot touch the shareholder. We're supporting this one in particular because you can go and say, this is shareholder A who's got a share certificate A. So there's a flow through. When you follow the money, as they say, you can actually see the money, where the money is going. You can go to a rural area and see an empowered person who benefited through the scheme. And I think hence we're actually supporting it. And then the scheme, in our view, supports what we call the spirit of economic transformation. The spirit is important because it's different from ticking boxes just to get BE points. And then 10 years down the line, the people who were supposed to have been shareholders have got nothing to show. But with the Zenzele, we've seen the past 10 years, people actually benefited. You can touch the benefits. So that is those are the types of schemes that we are supporting. Unlike those ones that are saying, let's just do a big deal and tick a box and claim that we are so much percent empowered. So we are available. We do have members who will be interested. So we are available to partner in a way that we can then take the scheme to many other people that may not necessarily have the information. So we are available through in the next few years, so next few weeks, to have a conversation to partner so that we can popularize this and so that we can reach many other people who may not be able to be reached. So we are here as a partner. We're hoping that we'll play our role. And lastly, congratulations once more. This is how the other South African companies who've got the interest of sustaining the democracy that we have, that should then take a leaf from here and learn from here and implement similar things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Khanki, for encouraging words and, of course, we're highlighting again how partnership plays a very key role in bringing businesses to the fore. And perhaps to also highlight what was also shared regarding the SAB Foundation and its support for many entrepreneurs. Many of you might be familiar with a company and an entity called Livestock Wealth, which has also received amazing support from SAB Foundation, an entity which collaborates in terms of past ways of investing and modernizing it through the establishment of apps and platforms for one to actually invest in livestock. And then even having expanded that recently, I understand, to other agricultural products such as macadamia nuts and a few other products that they look to launch. So just when you thought that the impact perhaps isn't that tangible, it's continuing to show great changes in the lives of entrepreneurs, the lives of South Africans as well who participate in their business ventures, and the fellow participants that they work with in the ecosystem. Well, I must tell you, I was virtually at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange this morning, but I'm sure you all figured that out. But there was a time last year when we were winding down SAB Zenzele and anticipating the launch of SAB Zenzele Kabili before the lockdown was implemented. And if any of you have experienced the listing, you would know the ululating that takes place in the background, the blowing of the kudu horn, and I think those are just some of the sentiments that we certainly wish and long for, but continue to celebrate knowing that at some point we will be able to return to that kind of festivity. But it doesn't mitigate or minus or take away from the excitement that we share here today. And to help us perhaps reflect on those moments of blowing the kudu horn and the excitement that we share, one of the leading capital markets on the continent, the representative of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, will come up to the front to share some of her thoughts with us. Please help me warmly welcome, both virtually and here with us in studio, the CEO of the JSE, Leila Fourie.
Thank you so much, and indeed it is really an honor and a privilege to be able to participate and celebrate in such an auspicious and important moment, and I'm just so sorry that we're not able to do it with the ululating and with the blowing of the kudu horn. Because blowing that kudu horn equalizes all of us. It really is wonderful to be here to celebrate, and I'd like to just acknowledge Deputy Minister Fikile Majola, who is, I know, online, and Mr. Mos Ngwasheng. Lovely to see you, and delegates of the SAB and InBev family, together with the Black Business Council President Sandile Lungu, and members of the press. It's genuinely my great honor and privilege to join you today as we celebrate the listing of SAB Zenzele Kabili and on the JSE empowerment segment. SAB Zenzele Kabili joins the likes of MTN Zakhele, Yebo Yetu, Cecil Enzalo as the fifth listing since the launch of the empowerment segment. And the JSE's empowerment segment caters for companies that have implemented BEE and other empowerment share schemes and it allows participants to buy and sell shares in a well-regulated environment. The principles of inclusion and sustainable economic growth are vital to the future of our country and very close to my heart, and they are also the core of the JSE's identity. Through the empowerment segment, the JSE provides an environment that enables companies to show their commitment to transformation and to economic inclusion by giving previously disadvantaged South Africans an opportunity to own a stake in companies that participate in their growth. Privilege obligates us to look after those who have less. And as we rise once more, to paraphrase the late Charlotte Makrete, we must ensure that those who are less fortunate rise too. Let us prove that business can be a force for good, making a meaningful impact and providing the returns that shareholders and investors seek. SAB Zenzele Kabili replaces SAB Zenzele, which to date has paid out a total of 13 billion rand to participants over its 11-year history. Beneficiaries include taverners, bottle store owners, retail customers, and employees, all of whom have had the opportunity to participate in the growth of one of South Africa's most iconic businesses. This has made a meaningful contribution to the lives of recipients. It's played an invaluable role in the upliftment of previously disadvantaged communities. Numbers like that are proof of the positive contribution that corporate South Africa makes to the national agenda on a daily basis. One of the highlights of this listing is that qualifying shareholders of SAB Zenzele Kabili will hold company shares and will be able to access them earlier than the previous 5-year lock-in period, which gives them additional optionality and also financial freedom. The JSE celebrates and applauds this milestone and the economic prospects that it brings, not only for the country, but for the South Africans that invest in it. In closing, on behalf of the JSE, I'd like to take a moment to extend my most sincerest congratulations to the SAB Zenzele Kabili team. We wish you well in this chapter of growth. I'd like to invite Mr. Moss Ngoasheng, the chairman of the SAB Zenzele Kabili, to join me on stage to accept this listing certificate, together with our Director of Capital Markets, Valdine Reddy. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Congratulations. I'll give that one to you. And we'll give this to you. Yes.
Look at this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm going to sign. I'm going to sign the certificate for you, which is a really exciting and wonderful achievement. Congratulations. Congratulations. Oh, sorry. Let me take that for you.
I think it's appropriate at this stage to thank the JSE for welcoming us onto the platform. Normally, I'm one person who doesn't do slip-ups when it comes to protocol. I forgot to recognize my fellow board member, Ernest, here, and the leader of the business organization in South Africa, BUSA, Kes Kovadia. I hope I haven't forgotten anybody else.
Sorry, Kes, I should have done that.
Okay, I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, as well as accepting the share certificate and, of course, acknowledging key partners within the business community. We do value your contribution and your participation here in conversation today, because it does highlight the gravity of the level of support that various stakeholders do bring to the table. So thank you again to Kaz Kovadi and your fellow board member that you've acknowledged as well today. Well, we certainly want to keep the excitement going, and I think for many of us, when we fast track and rewind to the year 2016, it was quite a year of activity, and I can imagine the conversations that must have taken place here at this campus for many SAB employees and executives regarding AB InBev purchasing SAB. Well, what we're well aware of is that that has really amounted to significant growth, and this particular opportunity now for qualifying South Africans to actually own a stake in AB InBev. Well, someone who must have sat quite closely to those conversations with the key priority of ensuring that whilst we do attract foreign direct investment, we do need to ensure that we still continue to stimulate trade, stimulate economic growth, and of course job creation within the FMCG sector. I'd like us to pay attention to our screens, as unfortunately we're not able to be joined by the Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry. However, he has recorded a brief message with us in acknowledgement of the launch of SAB Zenzele Gabili. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to this message from the Honourable Deputy Minister of the DTI, Mr. Fikile Majola.
SAB Zenzele Gabili.
Good afternoon. I'm Fikile Majola, Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Republic of South Africa. AB InBev Global President, Mr. Carlos Brito, AB InBev Zone President, Mr. Ricardo Moreira, SAB Foundation Chairperson, Mr. Mosmo Washing, SAB Vice President, Corporate Affairs, Ms. Zolega Lisa, President of the Black Business Council, Mr. Sandile Zungu, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation to this special and significant occasion. This event takes place during a very difficult period for the world. The world continues to battle the COVID-19 pandemic that is destroying lives and livelihoods. To respond to the economic hardships caused by the pandemic requires a solid, reshaped economic landscape that promotes empowerment, justice, and equality. We must forge ahead with the construction of the new economy that will offer new opportunities to all our people. The restoration of our economy demands that we follow a different trajectory, a new model of growth and economic inclusion that unites South Africans and promotes transformation. By this, we mean inclusive growth, growth that benefits everyone, including ordinary South Africans. We need to break free from the shackles of the past. Sharing of wealth and opportunities should be a non-negotiable. If we are to attain this objective, then our patterns of ownership, power, and control must be transformed. Collectively, we need to step up policies that actively promote worker ownership of shares in firms and representation of workers on corporate boards. We call on our social partners, particularly the private sector, to use their resources to enhance job creation, economic growth, and transformation. Together, we must relentlessly support broad-based ownership vehicles in the economy. One of the key priorities of government for the current term is to put together a bold action plan to attain a greater industrial output and economic inclusion. Government has identified worker empowerment through ownership structures as a key focus for the current administration to be driven through our department, the DTIC. To realize this objective, substantial work has been done with amendments to the Competition Act promulgated in July 2019. The Act empowers the competition authorities to look at the impact on worker ownership when considering the approval of measures. The Zenzele Gabili share scheme is in line with our call as government for an inclusive growth and meaningful participation of all South Africans in the mainstream economy. The scheme is a catalyst for unlocking economic value. What this means is that across the economy, communities in townships and villages will be afforded an opportunity to become shareholders. More importantly, as the DTIC, in line with our objective, we are proud to note that more than 6,000 local employees of AB InBev will be beneficiaries. We are also pleased to see that the transaction will empower Black investors that, among others, include retailer shareholders such as tavern and bottle stores owners and general retailers who are mainly Black. This empowerment program is aligned to the objectives of the BBBEE Act. The Act seeks to substantially change the racially skewed ownership composition and to increase the involvement of communities, workers, cooperatives, and other collective enterprises in economic activities. We recently published guidelines that provide guidance on recognition of broad-based ownership schemes, employee share ownership programs through individual employee participation or through their trade unions, not-for-profit companies, cooperatives, and trusts. The guidelines aim to provide clarity on and to communicate the intent of the BBBEE legislation with regard to BBOs, ESOPs, and ownership trusts, as well as government's drive to effect fundamental change and inclusive participation. In accordance with the commitments of all social partners to the recovery and reconstruction of our economy, we are looking forward to seeing more enterprises facilitating opportunities to empower communities, particularly their employees. In this regard, I would like to thank very much sincerely AB InBev for this important initiative. I thank you.
SAB Zenzele.
I just need to do a quick litmus test to check the mood in the room. So hip hip. Okay, good to see that you're still with us, including those who continue to stream with us on various social media platforms and interacting. The engagement is tangible, as we do see there is quite a bit of feedback on social media platforms as well. But of course, when we do talk about the SAB Zenzele Kabili opportunity, we're well aware that this does afford ordinary South Africans the opportunity to own a stake in a global company with more than 500 brands right across the world. And this really does speak to the kind of global representation and global partnership that we continue to embark on. We're going to hear a video recorded message this time around from the CEO and global president of AB InBev. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to your screens as we welcome a message from Mr. Carlos Brito.
SAB Zenzele Kabili.
Sani Bonani. A very good day to all in attendance, live and virtually, to this most wondrous event. My name is Carlos Brito, CEO of AB InBev, recording this message from our Global Management Office in New York. I would have loved to be in South Africa to mark this momentous day in history, but unfortunately, we've had to get used to doing these events virtually. It has obviously been a challenging year for all our stakeholders around the world. Yet, our South African partners have faced unique challenges throughout this pandemic. Challenges that have truly put their passion, commitment, and resolve to the test. It is because of these people, our colleagues in South Africa, that we're able to weather the storm and keep our heads held high. I must take a moment to pause and honor them. At AB InBev, we advocate ownership. We take performance personally, and we invest in people and communities. One of our 10 principles when it comes to culture is that we are a company of owners. As we afford the opportunity of ownership to qualifying South African shareholders with SAB Zenzele Kabili, I take a great pleasure in welcoming more owners to the AB InBev family, a global family of local companies with over 164,000 colleagues in nearly 50 countries, with well over 500 iconic brands sold in more than 100 countries around the world, including South Africa. The SAB Zenzele Kabili transaction could not have transpired at a more pertinent juncture, as the significance bears testament to the impact we have made in South Africa, following our commitment to the South African government and to transform an economic recovery when we finalized the combination with SAB in 2016. We're committed to improving lives in the communities in which we operate, and I'm proud of what has been achieved locally in 5 short years. We invest in sustainable long-term growth, and this share scheme represents the longevity, sustainability, and growth trajectory that we support. I'll be watching with great anticipation as the financial legacy we have begun to build positively affects more lives with SAB Zenzele Kabili, worth 5.4 billion rand in global AB InBev shares and listed on the BBBEE segment of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. At the heart of our business, we strive to understand what unites people, and we believe that beer is an engine of economic growth and recovery. And we are leveraging the power of our value chain as a catalyst for growth at a time when the country needs it most, in support of over 1 million livelihoods in our sector locally. I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank all our South African stakeholders, government, colleagues, and shareholders for the invaluable architectural role you have played in building AB InBev as a company of the future. As you embark upon a new scheme for new dreams with SAB Zenzele Kabili, I'll leave you with this thought. Dreaming small or dreaming big takes the same energy. So let's dream big. Cheers to the future.
SAB.
Well, I think some key sentiments being shared there by Mr. Brito in terms of dreaming big and not dreaming small. And even if we do, the goal and the objective is to actually achieve the goal and the target that one has set about for themselves. Well, we are in the final stages of our program today, so we really do appreciate the participation that we've had from many of you as speakers in the room, key stakeholders and partners as well, and of course participants who have joined us through our live streaming platforms in order to engage and participate today. One thing that we're well aware of is the power of the media in terms of sharing this messaging with the public, and that has really built up the amount of attention and following that SAB Zenzele Kabili has received, hence the excitement and focus on the share price and participating in this new listing. So for members of the media who might be joining us virtually or in person, we would encourage you to speak to some of our stakeholders and guests today. We do understand that there is a procedure to follow, so please do be mindful that you can interact with some of our speakers following the conclusion of today's program. Again, we'd like to remind those who might be joining us virtually as to how to get into this excitement. There's been a lot of questions that we've witnessed on many platforms regarding how many more South Africans can actively participate, be shareholders, and get their hands on Zenzele Kabili shares. For those who might be joining us virtually, we do want to highlight that there are opportunities for you to follow 3 particular steps in order to ensure that you will participate in this particular investment scheme. First things first is to go to the website, sabzenzelekabili.com, as well as sign the custody and settlement agreement to open up an easy account. We do understand that there are no monthly fees and only charged on costs to trade. This will also follow through with a submission of documents just to support that you are a naturalized individual or maybe an entity or company that might be investing, with the necessary documentation including naturalization affidavit, a certified copy of one's ID, as well as proof of residence and bank statements, and a few others that will be listed there. Applications can be completed and sent as well to sabkabili@computershare.co.za, one of the platforms that we've partnered with to ensure that we are able to democratize access as well as opportunities for those to participate. But we all know that many South Africans might still prefer the old form of technology, and whilst we use our apps and digital tools to interact and engage, there is a call center as well that is available for South Africans to dial, and that number is 0861 100 937. Again, for those who might be joining us virtually and are still slightly confused regarding this messaging, we will be sure to share it on the website and of course on social media messaging and platforms that are accessible to all South Africans, making sure that more participants are able to come on board. Well, I think as we do commence with the closure of today's conversation, as well as the launch that we've celebrated today, we are very mindful that it's been quite a journey to get to this occasion. We started off 2020 with great excitement, great optimism and participation, but we're well aware of the pressures that we faced in light of the pandemic and subsequent lockdowns and bans that followed suit. But that, however, it has not rattled or stifled the growth and the partnership opportunities that continue to exist within the manufacturing and FMCG space, specifically focused where SAB as well as AB InBev are. And this does really speak to the sense of community. When I think of one of the local townships where I grew up in, we're well aware of the local bottle stores, the tavern owners, and the lives that they change by taking their children to school, shifting landscapes and communities, and contributing positively to society. So we're well aware of the lives that we want to change on the ground through this particular share scheme. And with that, I'd like us to take a moment as well to acknowledge the chair of the Gauteng Liquor Forum, Umam Feni Mokwena, who's also joined us here in the audience this afternoon. Thank you very much for participating and being a representative of many beneficiaries who are here. Literally, you're on the coalface and interacting with South African consumers and being a proud representative of the brand. We'd also like to acknowledge the Gauteng Liquor Board, the chair of the Gauteng Liquor Board, Raymond Martin, who's also present here with us today. And we understand, again, go ahead and applaud. Indeed. We thank each and every one of you for your contribution and the conversations that you've engaged in boldly in the last 14 months to really continue to contribute to South Africa's economic growth, job creation opportunities, and shifting the landscape whilst navigating the difficulties of the pandemic and rising infection rates. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank you once more for your participation today, the excitement, the camaraderie, the partnership, and the patience as we've walked this journey towards the SAB Zenzele Gabili listing. I think as we all make our way out, there will be some refreshments that will be served for our guests who have joined us here, and of course an opportunity for us to continue to engage into the lives that will change as we look ahead to the next 5 years, the next decade, and even the next century, as was mentioned by the chair, regarding this ongoing partnership that we look forward to. To those who have joined us virtually, thank you so much for your participation, and we'll be sure to interact with you as well throughout the SAB Zenzele Gabili channels that are available. On that note, I think it's only fair that we wrap it up with a sense of excitement. Hip, hip. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Go well and take care.